Was there a moment in your military career where you had to pause before responding when you experienced a high pressure situation? And how did that affect you as a coach today?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah, so if I think back, I mean, there have probably been numerous occasions, but some that I can recall, and anybody who is in the army and served in Iraq will recognise this. I think it's one particular occasion. We were, en route from, we were in one of Saddam Hussein's old palaces in Iraq and driving back to the base, which was the, if I remember rightly, Shaiba Log base. By leaving the palace, once you get outside of the perimeter of like that military security, and you're driving through the town itself. Previous couple of days had been some quite hair-raising events that had gone on, and you're so wired, you're so tuned in. You're always looking for the absence of the normal and the presence of the abnormal. And to be fair, suddenly you'll see something, and it's remaining composed under that prolonged exposure to pressure as a commander. You've got 2 or 3 vehicles, you've got anything up to 12 soldiers that are under your command. At the time I was a company sergeant major, so I wasn't necessarily the lead vehicle at this time. There was probably a section commander that was leading it. But you're just really, really tuned in. And it's kind of like, as you're seeing something, you're trying to make almost not necessarily a snap judgment, but to make a judgment call in terms of, is that something that we've got to respond to? And you're constantly going through that mental process, and it is tiring. When you get back in, you've driven a fair few miles on adrenaline. Coaching today, what it allows me to do is to be able to diagnose that pressure with the CEOs, the MDs, the founders that I'm working with, in terms of recognizing that. Because the interesting point here, when we function under pressure, it's great. I can sit here and tell you 101 different war stories, and that'll have no relevance to anybody in the boardroom. But when I tell you how the pressure turns up and how it makes you feel, and the interference it causes, the stress, the anxiety, the fear, those feelings are present in major boardroom decisions. Where they're talking about maybe losing a big client, or whether they're on the borderline of bringing on a new contract, or where there's a significant financial investment. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be on the front line to know the impact and how those feelings impact you. And if you don't know how to deal with them, there is a thing, in terms of your cognitive ability to be able to think through clearly. And so, as a soldier, having been trained to do that and to make a conscious effort to remain as composed, and I think composed is the word that I'd use, is incredibly powerful in the boardroom. And when you see it with a CEO who has got that ability, you can just see it. You can see the moment the message lands, and they don't react, they think. Mm-hmm. So I think for me as a coach, it helps because I can recognize and understand it, but I can also help coach someone through to that level of interpretation of what it is they're feeling.